Lovely. Thank you for listening. Geoff or Shōun. And please relax. Sit comfortably. We'll be here for a little bit. I'll try to speak more from my heart and ask you to try to listen the same way. Please think. We need to talk about a koan from the Blue Cliff record, which is one of our traditional collections of koans, Japanese Hekigan Roku, I believe is what it's called. And this comes from the 12th century, the Song Dynasty in China. Two Chinese masters are credited with collecting these 100 koans. Their Japanese names are Secho and Engo. I'm going to talk about case number 89 from the Blue Cliff record, which is titled The Hands and Eyes of the Bodhisattva of Great Compassion. And the koan goes, there are two fellows, Yunyan and Daowu. And Yunyan asks Daowu, what does the Bodhisattva of Great Compassion have so many hands and eyes for? And Wu says, it's like somebody in bed at night sleeping, reaching behind themselves to grab a pillow. Yen said, I understand. And Wu wants to test him, and he asks him, how do you understand this? And Yun says, eyes and hands all over the body. And Daowu says, that's pretty good. You've got about 80% of it. So Yin says, well, what do you mean? How do you understand this, brother? And Wu says, throughout the body, there are eyes and hands. Making a distinction of some sort. So what do we suppose Daowu meant by this? Hands and eyes throughout our body, our bodies. What are these eyes and hands? What is the body? Where is it? This sack of stuff here. Notice that Wu doesn't say my body or your body. He says the body. Let's just be still for a minute and hold this. Consider this body. Be still. It'll just be a minute. We're doing a lot of sitting today, but be still in your body and just hold the notion of these eyes and hands. Don't think about this intellectually. Just hold it there. Don't analyze it. Just be with the question. What are these eyes? How does that feel? Here's a little passage from the New York Times just a few months ago. The chaotic scene of sickness and filth is unfolding in an overcrowded border station in Clint, Texas, where hundreds of young people who have recently crossed the border are being held. According to lawyers who visited the facility this week, some of the children have been there nearly a month. Children as young as 7 and 8, caring for infants they just met. I won't read the rest of this. Without relying on ideas or thoughts, what just happened with you as I read this? What occurred in your body? I can say what happened to me. Lost my voice. My pulse quickened. My skin began to sear. My breathing came up here from down here. I felt slightly nauseous. Why? What did you feel? Where did you feel it? Nothing actually happened here. I just read some words. Nothing's actually different than a few minutes ago. Yet, this koan refers to the Bodhisattva of great compassion. Regularly, sometimes every day, we do a chant that invokes Kanzeon, the Bodhisattva of great compassion, and it includes these lines. Morning heart is Kanzeon. Evening heart is Kanzeon. This very moment arises from heart. This very moment is not separate from heart. What is this heart? Where is it? Is it in my body or in yours or somewhere out there? Kanzeon and Kanon are Japanese names for the Sanskrit Avalokiteshvara, or the Chinese that lots of us have heard of, Wanyin or Kuan-yin, or the Tibetan Chenrezig. These are all the same. All depictions of an essential aspect of our true nature. Of our capacity for compassion, of our biggest self. Of our ability to feel something when we hear about kids at the border. One expression that is attributed to Avalokiteshvara or Kanzeon is, and this bodhisattva is sometimes female, sometimes male. So I inserted the parenthetical here. He or she who hears the outcries of the world. Wow. Avalokiteshvara is not a distant deity or something to be worshipped, or an idea or an ideal to strive for. Rather, our very essence, the natural functioning of us when we're whole, which we are, of our wholeness. Manifestation of our literal connectedness to everything. Again, back to parts of the koan, Yunyan asked Daowu, what does the Bodhisattva of great compassion use so many eyes and hands for? Who said it's like somebody reaching behind them at night to grab a pillow. Throughout the body are hands and eyes. Throughout. What body? The scientific world so beautifully describes that the barrier between our body or that body or all bodies or my body and your body or the earth body is gauzy at best. It's the word diaphanous, silky. You can see through it. What is mine? What is inside? What is outside? When we breathe, molecules go back and forth. They change. Are they mine? Whose are they? What could be more intimate than that? Here's this thing, this process that's occurring that has to occur without interruption. We rely on it multiple times a minute. What's inside? What's outside? Where do I begin and end? We take in water and food, we change them, and we pass them back to the earth. Inside and outside. And we're told that our cells regenerate completely every 7 to 10 years. I moved here 20 years ago. I'm 2 guys different from the guy who came here. Where did I go? Sometimes our blood spills out onto the ground. My dad and my best friend sit on my altar at home. Mere dust. Where are they? What happens outside of us, we feel inside. We get butterflies. Our heart races when stuff happens. Get choked up when you hear a story about kids at the border. Elevated blood pressure, our breathing changes, moves up in our chest, our skin crawls. I was in the UK on 9/11, and television is just electronics. We came back to our hotel room right when the planes hit the Twin Towers. I can't speak for my partner at the time. My body completely changed. We wept. TV again. Sandy and I turned on the TV when Katrina happened. It's an electronic device. We wept for hours. I don't know about everyone else. Those that I'm closest to, spouses, significant others, when the other one's pissed off, it's in my body. It's definitely in my body. Where's that barrier? We can't avoid, we can't stop feeling the cries of the world. It's natural. We're connected. Reaching behind us for the pillow is instinctual, isn't it? We flow, we give, we receive, we feel, hands and eyes. Our feet feel when we touch the earth. Our hands know without question when we touch our kids or our lovers. No fixed barrier seems to exist. I particularly appreciate Wu saying it's like someone reaching back, grabbing or groping for a pillow in the middle of the night. I like that. Picture that. Who hasn't done this? Do you need to turn the light on? Do you need to put your glasses on? Open your eyes? No. Boom. How often do you get it wrong? I may have missed my pillow once or twice, but I nail it almost every time. It's instinctual. Perhaps you've heard this this example of compassion functioning within this limited body. A lot of people have heard this, so forgive me for the repetition. If I burn my hand or I cut my finger, my other hand doesn't ignore that, but my other hand immediately takes action, gets an ice cube, gets a Band-Aid, calls 911, whatever's necessary, without any thought. It's instinctual. We don't have any doubts about this being natural. It's our body. But our body's larger than we usually think it is, it seems. It's connected to those kids in Texas, to our lovers, pissed off or happy. So what gets in our way? What impedes our knowing this and acting from that certainty? That those kids are me. They're me. Culture, language, discriminating thinking, preference and aversion, all work to create separation for us. But our bodies know. Hands and eyes throughout our body, our one body, they all know. Modern people, as modern people, we've developed philosophies and belief systems that come between us feeling the outcries of the world and that crying world that's right in front of us. Those beliefs and ideas only serve to alienate us more, really. We have to work very hard to keep those defenses in place. And to an extent, it makes sense. It's painful when we see suffering. We might be excused for wanting to look away. Who's heard these statements before? We can't just give them food and shelter. They won't feel motivated to provide for themselves. How hard do you have to work to come up with that one? They shouldn't have come here knowing they would not be allowed to enter and would be detained. It's their fault. Don't give that guy money. He'll just buy dope with it. Takes a lot of work to lay that on top of a beating heart. My son just turned 39. When he was brand new, we had friends who were very concerned about our independence. They wanted to protect us from from a baby. And when he'd cry, this still chokes me up. When he'd cry, they suggested, put him in a room by himself and let him cry it out. He'll learn to be independent. Excuse my language. He was fucking 6 months old. We could no sooner do that than we could have put him in a snowdrift and walk away. The eyes and hands in our bodies simply wouldn't allow it. Put him in a room by himself. What mental contortion is required to think that that makes sense? Would we do that to another adult? We naturally have the instinct to see, hear, feel, care, and reach out to help. It's our very nature. It's who we are. So how do we hear the outcries of a suffering world? We're busy, we're distracted, we have our own things we want to protect. How do we engage our eyes and hands, our ears and our heart? Good news, we're here doing it today. We practice. Bernie Glassman, who some of you have heard of, gave us the simplest instructions on how to realize our nature as the great Bodhisattva of compassion with so many eyes and hands. He gave us the Zen Peacemaker tenets. Roadmap. It's a roadmap for what to do. Don't know, bear witness, and then take action from not knowing and bearing witness. We don't know, setting aside our philosophies and our belief systems. We're still silent and open. We're empty of ideas or agendas. We don't know. We bear witness by looking at the life that's right in front of us and by not looking away from it, painful as it is. We don't have to go looking for something good to do somewhere out there. It's always in front of us. We take action from the standpoint of stillness and awareness, from not knowing, and from bearing witness. And we do the next thing, acting from our heart. We reach for the pillow. We do what we can. We answer the cries with love and wisdom. When Sensei asked me to talk about this, the first thing that popped into my head was these 3 lines. I wrote them down on a napkin or something, I think. In our still body, with many eyes, we see us, healing with one touch. Thank you for listening. As sometimes we say, don't believe anything I said. There isn't enough water in Boulder Reservoir to wash these words from your ears. So, thank you.
So traditionally in the Zen Ango period, which we are in right now, which is a 90-day intensive, it ends with the head trainee giving a talk on the koan they've been working on, and then inviting the Sangha to ask him questions about his understanding of the Dharma that he's just shared, they've just shared. So Shōun is our Shuso for this Ango, and this was his sharing of the koan that he spent some time with. And I'd like to invite you all now to probe him or ask him a question that might expand on the Dharma that he has shared. So we have about 15 or 20 minutes I'd love to spend on this. So if 5 or 10 or 15 people would like to ask a question, we can just kind of do it popcorn style and just kind of go into Gasho and just say, Shōun, and ask him a question, and he'll engage you. Okay, so I'd like to say, yeah, just make it a question, okay? So you're not going to expand on your Dharma, but just really elicit his response. And then if you're satisfied with his response, you can say thank you for your answer. Okay.
Lily.
Shōun, how does bearing witness help?
How does bearing witness help?
Bearing witness.
Bearing witness is how we see.
How is seeing helpful? You know, as opposed to taking an action.
How is it helpful?
How is it helpful?
This is how we encounter our world. This is
How does being aware of the health in Texas help babies?
we've not forgotten them.
On a practical level, how is that sufficient?
I don't know yet. This way. Hi.
Actually, if eyes and hands are throughout the body, where is the heart?
Really?
So, what was your compassionate response to your friends who suggested you put your child, 6-month-old child, in the room?
That's more of a historical question, but I'm happy to answer that. I think we just probably, I think it's a long time ago, 39 years ago. I'm sure we simply said, no, we're simply not going to do that. If we, I had this in my notes, and I wasn't. Sandy said, no, take that out. That's off the topic. But I'm nothing if not off the topic. The same friend, I'll make this really quick. The same friend bought us a Fisher-Price thing called a Busy Gym. It's a plastic bar with all this stuff that hangs off it that you can play with. It's supposed to hang in the baby's crib so that the parents can be independent, right? So you don't have to, you don't have to mess with your kid. Fisher-Price is doing it for you. They can lay on their back and play with all this stuff. We were hippie parents. We didn't have a crib or a bottle, or we just didn't have a lot of this stuff. We slept with our kids until they were 5. But my friend Steve, he was living with us at the time. He came home one day, and I had the Busy Gym. I had taken a piece of climbing rope and I threaded it through the bar. And Ian was laying on his back on the floor, and I was over him with the Busy Gym around my neck. And I swear, his expression was like, what an idiot. I gave him an out and he didn't take it. So.
Not with your hands and eyes.
Got you.
What do you do when it feels like your hands and eyes aren't enough hands and eyes?
What do you do when you feel like you can't do enough? Cry and do the next thing.
Thank you for your answer.
May your life go well. Ralph.
Is there a balance in how you find it between nurturing yourself and taking that energy nurturing others. You do all of one, all of the other.
That's a great question. That's really the question about how do you avoid burnout when you're helping.
Yeah.
You know, there's probably a practical answer to that. Take care of yourself. Rest. Stop looking at the balance sheet or the meter. Yeah. Sometimes the next thing that needs to be done is to take care of yourself. Ourselves. We're part of that world that needs compassion and care. It seems to me. So, you know, harming ourselves in the process is kind of missing the point. So.
That's a balance. And I think I like the stop looking at the balance and harming yourself in this process.
So I think if we need taking care of, then that's bearing witness to ourselves as well. Then we take care of ourselves. Maybe that's the next thing. Dave.
After you're bearing witness, how do you know your action is causing more reaction? And having
And that's a great question. That stops a lot of us from taking action, doesn't it? Wanting to make sure that we get it right. I think it's fair to accept the inevitability that we're not going to get it right.
You're not going to get it right, will you?
Because we're trying. We're trying. We're going to get it right some percentage of the time. We're going to make mistakes. The other night, since I used an expression and I wrote it down, but I might have written it down wrong, but it was something like happy catastrophe. Was that close? Something catastrophe.
Train
The whole catastrophe.
Yeah. You know, so in my effort to make things better, I have definitely screwed it up and made it worse. But other times it came out better.
John, it was surrender to a whole catastrophe.
That's it. Was that it?
That was a huge span.
Thanks, Dave. Sorry. No such thing.
Do you find people with compassion for people who commit atrocities with others? Like, how do you find compassion in that? That makes sense.
It's really a good question, because when we look out at the things that are, this is me talking about it, I'm not sure I'm answering your question, but you know, we look at the things that need our attention and help in the world, the kids at the border.
Mm-hmm.
There's people who are causing that. There are people who are making that happen. And it's really easy to demonize them and otherize them. And I think all I can say about what we do with them is to just be very, very, very still. And follow the 3 steps.
What happens if you still, at least for me, like, I'm nowhere near that. Like, there's a lot of anger, those people who hurt others, especially like children.
Believe me,
Right.
yeah.
How do you stay still with like all that anger and that hatred towards those people?
Yeah. And this is where it gets kind of tricky, but the action that we might need to take could be to interrupt them doing what they're doing. Being compassionate for somebody who's an abuser or a tyrant or somebody who's harming other people doesn't mean passively sitting there with a peaceful look on our face, smiling as they do it. It might mean physically stopping them from doing it, or something else. So I don't know if that helps at all. Yeah.
One more? Too much pressure. Not really.
It's okay. Thank you for your, oops, I'm sorry.
John,
Okay,
when I took the vows, at first I resisted because my understanding of taking the vows was that I was responsible for it all. Are you at 80% or 100%?
responsible? I do what I can. I do as much as I can. And I think I am responsible for it all. Those vows we repeat every day. They're impossible, aren't they? Numberless creation. How could we ever? So we just do the next thing. 100%. Oh yeah.
Thank you for your
Your life go well. Let's. Said you.
Are there boundaries?
I'm sorry.
Are there boundaries?
That's for you to find out. I can tell you what somebody else said, but science would tell us no, right? Thank you.
We're not done yet.
You double dipping.
Yeah, sorry if this is out of the boundaries of this venue, but you asked many rhetorical questions in your talk, and the answer to all of them was the same for me. You were breaking my heart, and I found the answer to my previous question as a result of your question, which is you pay it forward by witnessing. Does that ring true to you?
Does
it ring true to you?
Yes.
That the awareness and all the rest of it, what if you can't take direct action, which is what you addressed previously, is it indirect action of breaking my heart by asking these questions? What do we do? How do you feel? Now my heart is softer. Maybe I do something. Maybe the 100%, that's what you'll say. Maybe you only cover for 99.9%. Do you think that it's good enough that somebody else picks up the 20 or 1%?
Yes.
so you get your 100%.
Yes, I think so.
I think I understand that now.
Thank you. Well, let's go walk around. Prepare for Kinhin.
Yeah, I'd just like to say, so like Shōun said, don't believe anything he said and just wipe all his words out. The Dharma talk isn't to stir up the head, it's to open the heart. So just go forward with that and make the most of the remaining time. This Zazenkai's speed to a conclusion. So return to your heart practice.